Good evening, and thank you for sharing your time with us. Tonight's presentation.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, and thank you for sharing your time with us. Tonight's presentation is entitled Retirement Planning. My name is Myra Shelley Kasuk, and I am the Financial Education Coordinator here at the Los Angeles Police Federal Credit Union. Before I get started with introducing your guest speaker for today, I would like to talk to you a little bit about the toolbar that you have on your computer and or mobile device. On that toolbar, you should be able to see your name and a few icons. If you're on the computer, you'll see a hand icon. If you can click on that for me, just so to let me know, first of all, that you can hear me clearly, I would greatly appreciate that. Just click on that hand icon. Okay, I see a few hands going up. Thank you. Also, if you have a question, we will be answering questions at the end of tonight's webinar. The purpose of that is really because a lot of your questions might be answered within the presentation itself. So we want to make sure that you get some time to hear everything because this presentation does end at 8 p.m. In addition to that, we will be recording this webinar. So for those of you, if you feel like it was just a lot of information, maybe you didn't take notes or you couldn't find your pen or your pen went out, whatever the case may be, I will be sending out a link to the recording within the next 2 business days. I will also be sending out a survey to you tomorrow, and that survey is for you to utilize to share your responses on how you think tonight's webinar went, as well as if you would like anyone to contact you regarding any type of financial planning. With all of that said, let me go ahead and give you to tonight's presenter. His name is Christopher Ellis, and Christopher, whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much, Myra. I appreciate it. Thank you all for attending this evening. We appreciate you taking the time to look towards retirement planning, and hopefully you can get some great pointers out of tonight. And like Myra said, please save questions towards the end so that we can go through the whole presentation, give you guys enough time, or give me enough time to cover all the material in case I cover your question in a later slide. And if something interests you or piques your interest, don't hesitate to reach out to us here at the credit union to be able to ask those questions and get further clarification down the road. With that being said, I'm going to start with today's objectives. So the first objective, establishing a strong financial foundation, creating emergency funds, making better decisions regarding debt, understanding basic investment options, the importance of regular financial reviews, understanding your options. Pay yourself first. I really enjoy this phrase or this way of thinking about saving for emergency funds. We've always discussed in the financial industry ways to create protection and ways to create a savings account that's designed for emergencies. Illnesses happen, accidents happen, people get laid off. And with this way of thinking about it, paying yourself first, it really prioritizes it with you in mind, or yourself being taken care of. We pay out so many people, we pay out to different companies all day long. We might do it online, we send out checks. There's so many different ways that we're paying other people. We got to take ourselves, as a priority and make sure that we are protecting ourselves, our families, our own assets. And so I really like the way that this presentation discusses this with paying yourself first. Pay yourself first. What you're going to see here is plan. So the P stands for pay yourself first. When you pay yourself first, you are mentally establishing saving as a priority. I just discussed, having an emergency fund. A lot of different financial institutions will discuss having a 3 to 6 month buffer. just in case something happens. And what we've seen, research has told us, is that the number one cause that forces people to dip into emergency funds is illness. Illness could take you away from work. You only have so many sick days, and if you go beyond that, vacation days, and you're still out of work, it might take time to, apply for disability, to be able to get some type of income through insurance to help cover your costs. And at that time, the collection agencies, the different companies that we owe, they expect to get paid. And they, sad to say, they're for-profit organizations in the most case, and they're worried about making sure that they get their payments, and they don't care about your illness. They don't care about your accident. They might work with you in certain situations, but it's important to make sure that you have this buffer. The 3 to 6 months of savings for an emergency account will give you that opportunity to make sure that you can pay your mortgage, you can pay your rent, you can make your car payment, you can make your insurance payments to keep that active, especially if it is an illness that kind of keeps you away from work. There are different ways that you can look at doing this. Pay yourself first, but you really need to identify whatever it is that your monthly salary is, and whatever your take-home is, not your gross, because your take-home is what you pay your bills with. With that take-home pay that you get on a monthly basis, work on creating a budget. And within that budget, part of it needs to go to savings to create this emergency fund. Paying yourself first encourages sound financial habits. This will also keep you on track of budgeting appropriately, making sure that you don't spend too much money. I know some of you out there have some habits that you truly love. Myra and I were just discussing, our Starbucks habits. We love to go out and, get our venti drinks that keep us caffeinated throughout the day, and we know the exact cost of each one of those cups. And so we've budgeted appropriately, but it's sad that, we're dependent on these needs throughout the day to get us through, so we have to make mental adjustments. So what I did, and this was a few years ago, I go to 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven, if you bring your own cup, you can get a refill at some 7-Elevens, it's 99 cents. If you go to others, it's $1.29. It's still a lot less expensive than that venti drink at Starbucks, which could go for $4.55 as high as $5.55. So mentally establishing that saving as a priority will help you to create some lifestyle changes that will give you that opportunity to save and create that buffer in your life. I just discussed that buffer, real-world applications. We're going to try and share those with you, today. Another thing that we've seen, and we'll discuss it later in this presentation, is as certain expenses are eliminated in your life. So maybe you had a car payment, and you were paying, $350 per month. Once you are eliminating that car payment, so you've paid it off, you get the title, it's such a, an exhilarating feeling to be able to know that you don't have that hanging over you and that asset is now yours. But instead of taking that $350 a month and, going to, Cabo and, splurging on a nice vacation after a few months, take part of that and continue to pay yourself first with it. Keep putting that $350 away. You were able to live within that budget previous to owning the title, and so now you could be able to put that money away for yourself and create a larger buffer. You still need to go to Cabo. There's still importance in doing that, but make sure you're budgeting appropriately. I'll share a story with Myra as well. Myra and I were talking about Starbucks, and she said that it didn't dawn on her how much she was spending at Starbucks until she realized she wanted to go to Hawaii. And by being able to cut back on that Starbucks expense, then she's got more money put away to be able to hit her goal and get to Hawaii, by next year. Living within your means. So this is a really important one. Can I get a show of hands on the computer just to see who has a hard time living within your means. And if my wife were here, or if my wife were online, that hand would go up greatly. Both hands would go up.
Okay, we have a couple of hands that are up right now. Yeah.
Perfect. So, this is going to apply to all of us because at certain times we get outside of our buffer zone. We take on an expense or things happen in life where it's unexpected, and it's hard for us to stay within those means because, unexpected expenses. And so what we want to do is, we want to discuss, the ways in which you can plan accordingly. The plan, the L, as you can see, is highlighted now, living within your means. So question your needs and wants. I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old at home, and we have tried to instill in them the difference between what they want and what they need. They want to have a treat after they eat dinner, but what they need to do is they need to make sure that they eat their dinner and, not get into a bad habit of expecting certain things. And so we go through these, this discussion quite often at home. The funny thing is it's easy for us to have that discussion with a 5- and 3-year-old, but sometimes it's hard to look at ourselves and identify the difference. So I really challenge you to, kind of decipher as you're going through your budget what it is that there's a need and what it is that's a want. And set guidelines. By setting guidelines, this will help frame what is that, how you can live within your means and how you will be able to, reach goals and be able to plan accordingly to, again, live within your means. Track, trim, and target. So this is a very difficult task. Setting guidelines is easy, but the track, trim, and target is how you execute, what you just set within those guidelines. So keeping track of what you set out for yourself. Trimming the fat, trimming the costs that you don't need, and those are the wants that are in your life. And then setting a target, a date with which you're going to meet those goals and complete those guidelines. And then this last part right here, be smart. This is a great acronym to help identify what it is that is going to be a good guideline for you. You need to set a specific target or specific goal for living within your means. That should be measurable. And if you're keeping track of a budget, we're talking about expenses, that's going to be something that you're going to be able to see the difference in your bank account at the end of 1 month, at the end of 2 weeks. And maybe it needs to be longer. Maybe it needs to be a 3-month, a 6-month target, because it does take us a while to change our habits. An old adage is that it takes 21 days in a row to create a habit. And that doesn't mean it's a good habit or a bad habit. It just is a habit. And so if you can do the same things for 21 days in a row, that's a really good start, and that will help get you on track. Make sure that you're setting goals that are. I have many people that come into my office and they want to put $500 away, $1,000 away, $1,500 away every month. And I say, okay, let's slow down a little bit. You haven't set anything aside the last 3 or 4 years, but you're going to set a very lofty goal with these very large chunks of money. Let's set something that's attainable. Let's start with $100, $250, because I want you to stay on track. I want you to keep it up, because what we've seen in the past is somebody says, I'm going to put away $1,000 a month, and they start and they do 2 months, and then they realize, holy cow, I can't do this anymore. And so then they just stop completely. And by not reaching an attainable goal, they weren't able to continue this process. And that's the worst part, because then it's hard to get them back to come in and change. So making sure that you're setting attainable goals. And then make sure it's relevant. Make sure that it is truly what you're looking to get accomplished, that it is going to meet those guidelines you're setting. It's going to meet the needs that you have, which will hopefully then be able to afford the wants. So there's that connection. And then time related. So you need to set a time to be able to see when you're going to hit these measurables and be able to keep track of it. So all of this, applies together. It's a big process. And what I'm going to do right now is I want to compare it to, having a healthy lifestyle. It's very easy for us to know how to eat right, what it is that we're supposed to be putting into our bodies to be healthy, how much we're supposed to work out, walk, run, exercise, getting enough sleep at night. All of these things can create a very healthy body for us. It's easy to say it, but it's hard to achieve it and attain it. And it's the same with reaching financial success. You have to set these goals, and you have to, make sure they're measurable, attainable, they're relevant, and set a time frame on it. If you can do that, it's just like having a healthy lifestyle. You're going to be able to, feel better. You're going to have more confidence in your ability to make your payment. You're going to feel stressed. And really, if you think about a healthy lifestyle in terms of fitness and eating right, financial wellness and healthiness is very important too, because it'll alleviate stress on you. So all of it's kind of intertwined and intertangled. And again, I know it's easy for me to talk, through the computer right now and tell you how to do it, but it is extremely difficult, and it's just as difficult to get to the gym. If you go to the gym and you get on the treadmill for 10 minutes and then you go home, I'm happy that you were going for at least 10 minutes and you got some type of exercise, but you're not going to get the same results as if you stayed at the gym for 60 minutes. You got on the treadmill for 20. You did some weights. You went to some other cardiovascular machines. Just did a consistent workout. You're going to get results at a much greater, in a much quicker time frame, and you're going to get the results. It takes time, it takes effort and energy, but you're going to see results. And then, I just want to compare that to, reaching that financial fitness. And there it is. Living within your means. Financial fitness is a commitment, a lifestyle, similar to going to the gym and eating right. So I should have had this slide up, so I apologize. But one of the things right here is, paying off your credit cards. So credit card debt is the #1 reason most people can't get ahead. So I looked up some statistics regarding credit card debt. And so the average U.S. Adult has a debt of $130,922. Of that, $15,762 is credit card debt. That's a very large number when we're talking about, let's just say on average, about 20% interest rate that you're losing out on. And then in total, the U.S. has $733 billion U.S. dollars of credit card debt. So these are astronomical numbers that, it's so easy to get into a bind. This morning, I had a member come in, and she brought her daughter in to have a conversation about debt. The daughter had made a number of mistakes and had gotten into some debt, and her mom was not going to bail her out, and she wanted to have the message come from somebody else to make sure that the daughter understood the responsibility, accountability. This was debt that she created, and through bankruptcy or through all these other forms, that wasn't the way that she wanted her daughter to go about paying this back and alleviating the debt. But in having that discussion with this young woman, it was very easy and quick to get credit card debt. Many of you out there, and we can have a show of hands, how many of you have a child who's going to be going to college very soon, within the next couple years, or maybe they're at college now, their freshman or sophomore year. Some of you might not realize this, but the first week of college, the first week at a university on campus, every credit card company has a table set up in the quad just waiting to get all of these incoming freshmen, all of these transfer students to sign up for credit cards, because it's an easy target to have somebody get into debt. Now, credit cards are important. You can use that as part of an emergency fund if you don't have a savings, set aside. But you have to be very careful about what you're using that credit card for, and trying to be able to pay that off. So it's a real touchy subject, and I just wanted to share some personal things out there for you guys, so that you kind of know, if you don't have that problem, that's great. But somebody might be in that situation, or somebody that you care about, you want to make sure that you protect them from getting into this type of debt, because it can really hurt and set you back many, many years, and also your credit score. Okay, the next slide. Assure your family stability. So going back to our plan, P-L-A-N, this is the A, assure your family stability. So estate planning, it's not only for the rich. And so estate planning is being able to create a will, a living trust, some type of estate document that protects all of your assets. A lot of people will say, well, in the case of an accident, when life happens and there's an unexpected death, I hate to tell you all this, but death is expected. We are all going to die. It's not something we want to talk about, and when I talk about life insurance policies and when I talk about estate planning, it's a really tough subject to talk about, because you're talking about the inevitable. But if we're not honest and we're not upfront about it, then this could really cost and hurt people down the road. If you think about it, assuring your family's stability. So write or update your will. Work with a financial professional to assess the amount of coverage you and your family may need for insurance, and then protecting that with an estate document, a living trust, a will, pour over will, all of these things. Working with a great attorney will help. It does cost money to get these things done. But you know what else costs money? Probate court, lawyer fees. And you know what else you don't want to do when you're grieving loved ones is to have to go fight for the assets that aren't in your name. They were in the deceased name. So this is something that I hopefully you can tell through my, my voice. I'm very passionate about it. My father passed away 3 years ago. And he went very quickly, and we tried to get a living trust signed within the last few days, but he was not capable of signing that document. And it was heartbreaking. And then going with my mom to the bank to try and get the safety deposit box back, because it wasn't in her name, it was only in my dad's name. And dealing with all the other issues and the expenses that it cost. And, my mom having to fight through this stuff when she was devastated of the loss of her husband. I mean, it was just really tough to go through, and I don't mind sharing that, because hopefully that story will push you or influence you to go out there and get this accomplished. I will tell you, on average, what I've seen out there in the industry is that a really good living trust document is going to cost you a couple $1,000s. But that is a fraction of what the probate and court costs and lawyer fees are going to be, if you go down that road. So maybe we can get a show of hands and see how many people out there are in need of putting together a trust or an estate plan, and that will help kind of frame, if I need to continue discussing this for you guys.
Got 5 hands up right now.
Okay, and we've done estate planning, seminars here in the past. We do have we have a list of attorneys that have worked with the credit union in the past. And we also have members trust, which is also the opportunity for, in case you don't know who to appoint as your trustee, the executor of your trust, that can be something that the credit union can take on as well. So this is something that, again, I'm extremely passionate about. I encourage you to reach out to me or the credit union to discuss, how to get in contact with, one of the many lawyers. We have many lawyers throughout the Southland that can be close to you, that we trust and that will take good care of you guys. So reach out to us so we can, send that information to you guys. The next slide, again, assuring your family stability. Make sure you are fully vested. You want to make sure that you find out the date which you can keep all of your benefits. So if you think about this in the terms of, deferred comp, drop, Social Security, Medicare, any of those types of plans that are out there that you're going to be looking towards in the future, make sure you know the time frame. Make sure that you know the year, the date of when you are going to be fully vested to reap the most rewards. There's a lot of times that we wake up in the morning and we don't want to go to work, and it's hard for us to get out of bed and be motivated to go to, certain jobs or to deal with certain people in our lives. It happens. That's natural of what we've seen, but you need to make a few bit of sacrifices to stay there as long as you possibly can to truly reap those benefits. Now, I'm not telling you to suffer and to punish. If you can't take it, you can't take it, but make sure you understand what the consequence is by not staying there till you're fully vested. Next slide here, Social Security. Now, we know that this might not apply to everybody on the line. For those of you who do not contribute to Social Security because of deferred comp, or if you're part of CalSTRS, CalPERS, those entities. But we want to make sure that we are approaching and discussing this to any of those on the line that are participating in Social Security. Social Security stopped sending statements in 2013. And so a lot of people the last few years, they don't really truly know where they are because they haven't gotten a statement. So the best way to do that is to go to www.ssa.gov. You will log in using your Social Security number. It will create a password for you. It'll create a PIN that you can log on at any time and see what your Social Security statement looks like. It does fluctuate over time, and it will give you an idea of what type of income you're looking from Social Security. Now, Social Security was created as a supplement to your retirement. It was not designed to be your sole retirement. And I'm sure many of you out there are thinking, who knows if Social Security is going to be around in the next 10, 15, 20, 25 years, or what that's going to look like. I've heard numbers like it's going to decrease by 25%. We're going to have to pay more money into it. Whatever that looks like, we know that there's going to be some changes or corrections. But understanding what your statement looks like, understanding that hopefully you're contributing to other retirement accounts and setting aside money so that you're not relying 100% on Social Security. And then the next note there, make a note of how much you will receive from Social Security at various dates using ages 62, 66, and 70. These are the most common numbers, and your statement will actually tell you to the month when is your retirement. 67 years and 2 months, 66 years and 7 months. And it varies based on when you were born and what your age is currently. But as most of you are very familiar with it who have been participating in Social Security, age 62 is the first year that you can collect Social Security. Unless you have a disability, unless there's some other issue or instance that you are able to draw that money earlier. But if healthy, the first you can withdraw is at age 62. If you wait longer, at age 66, you'll get a higher monthly payment, and then at age 70, it maxes out. That is the most that you're going to get. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to the next slide, because I do want to talk about Medicare as well. So Medicare, you have to sign up for within 7 months of your 65th birthday. Now, there's a couple things that you need to be aware of with Medicare. Medicare will be deducted from your Social Security check, or be a payment that you're going to have to make if you didn't participate in Social Security. So this is something that when people start collecting at age 62 from Social Security, they don't realize that at age 65, that monthly payment gets decreased by the Medicare payment. So it's something for you guys to be aware of who are getting close to that age or want to know more. The other thing is, with the Medicare, you do have options. I've seen that most people, go to AARP, and that's who they, get their benefits through. You have options that might be able to give you maybe a decrease in cost, or, a competitive advantage in terms of who you might be able to use and which doctors and things. So do some research and figure out, who it is that you do want to get your Medicare insurance through, making sure that it's of best interest to you. That is something that we can discuss in greater detail. If you want to set up an appointment and you're curious about Medicare and what that looks like, we do. I have the capability here as the financial advisor to help create that Medicare insurance for you and get you signed up. So please take advantage of that. If that's something that you're getting close to, we can answer all those questions for you. The other thing I want to make sure that you read within this slide is that important part. If you do not sign up during the 7th month window of your 65th birthday, your monthly premiums will increase by 10% for each 12-month period you were eligible for but did not enroll in. Medicare Part B. So make sure that you do understand that this is something you need to sign up for, to take advantage of, and do it timely so that you don't have an increase in that monthly cost. So Medicare costs, on average, most people pay about $121.80 a month. Depends on your income. So looking at that income scale on the right, if your yearly income in 2014 for what you pay in 2015, so based on your tax return filing, so I'm just going down the first column, $85,000 or less, or you file joint tax return $170,000 or less, file married and separate tax return $85,000 or less, you would have paid in 2016 $121.80. So let's just say that at age 62 you start collecting Social Security and your monthly check is $921.80 per month. Well, at the age of 65, your check is going to now go down to $800. That's a big decrease when you're talking about not being prepared for that. $120 at the age of 65, that's your cell phone bill, might be your electric bill, so certain things of that nature. It won't be your electric bill this month. It's going to be much higher than that because of all the ACs that are running. But make sure that you are aware of all of the different costs that are associated with it and planning accordingly. It's really tough. Now we're going back all the way from the beginning of what our presentation talked about, is setting that budget, creating a plan. We're covering these things and ensuring your family stability because these are expenses that you're going to have to pick up down the road, and making sure that, one, you're aware of it, but two, this is how you're going to protect your health, and it is important, and making sure that you know the time frame and what that cost is going to be for you. Okay, the next slide here, never stop learning. I love this picture. I don't look like that guy in the picture, but I hope I look as good as him when I get to his age. Strapping man. But what I love about this is it truly is a slogan that I think most of us here in the U.S. live by. You know, and I think, you know, across the world, if we're not learning, we're setting ourselves up for failure. And, you know, one of the things that, you know, we want to do here is kind of go back to that, you know, the plan. This is the end of the plan. Never stop learning. So we're going to start back again where we're writing down our financial goals. This is a little bit, this is close to what we talked about with our wants and needs at the beginning of the presentation, but it's a little different because the financial goals are things that might not be attainable, but you want to set lofty goals to try and push yourself to achieve them. If you set attainable goals and you find success, then you're going to continue down that path. But you also have to have some lofty goals so that you push yourself to try and achieve that. I used to coach college basketball, and we would always set goals for our players. So I coached both men's and women's college basketball, and it didn't matter who I was talking to. If I was talking to, you know, a player on my team, the number one thing I would always say to them is, what is your goal out there? What's the one thing that you want to do? What's the one thing that you want to get accomplished? Or if we were talking about how they're going to play the pick and roll, so they have the ball, they're coming off an on-ball screen, what's your number one goal? What's the one thing you want to do? Well, you want to score, right? You're on offense, you got the ball, your number one job is to score. So you kind of set those goals there, but then you talk to them about, well, what's your goal for the whole game? How many points do you want to score? How many rebounds do you want to get? And having them set a little bit loftier goal. I would have kids come up to me and they'd say, well, I'm going to get, you know, 3 rebounds tonight. I'd be like, if you get 3 rebounds, we're going to lose. You got to get 8 or 9 rebounds. Because if you set your goal for 8 or 9, then you'll get me 5, and, you know, that's going to give us a couple extra opportunities. But make sure that you're setting goals that, you know, one, are attainable so you find some success, but also set some lofty goals. And then, you know, work with a financial professional to act as a sounding board for your ideas and help you focus on your goals. You know, here at the credit union, you know, the consultations with the financial advisor are always complimentary. We want to give you, you know, that information that you need. We want you to come in and tell us what it is that you're looking for, that you want to learn, that you want to know, that, you know, maybe it's help or guidance on, you know, setting aside money for retirement. Maybe it's, you know, overcoming debt. Whatever it is that your goal is, use us here to be able to help you get to that, to help you set those guidelines that we talked about at the beginning and give you some ideas on what that's going to take. But also give you an encouragement that you can achieve it. So, you know, those are really important things. You know, and working with a financial professional for a sounding board for financial goals, you know, really I'm going to go back to that healthy lifestyle again. You know, that analogy that I used earlier about being fit and being healthy. You know, sometimes we have to, you know, go to the doctor to figure out what's wrong with us. Why are we, you know, feeling the way we are? You know, you might go to WebMD. That's fine, but I guarantee you, you're probably going to get a better diagnosis by going to see a professional and letting them help, you know, you identify what is wrong and giving you a better, you know, prognosis and then maybe a prescription to get healthy. It's the same thing with using a financial professional. If it's not me, you know, you come in here, you don't like the color of my tie, you know, I dress funny, you know, whatever it may be, make sure you're working with somebody to help get you to the point that you can, you know, financially independent. So some of the basic investment options. So this is basically just an idea of some of the things that are available to you guys to help get you to that financial freedom that we're talking about. So some of the you know, basic investment options. So 401k, 403b, 457, TSP rollovers. All of these are just IRS codes for employee-sponsored plans. 401k is a for-profit organization. 403b is a non-profit organization. 457 and TSP are city, municipal, county, state, federal agencies. And that's just how the IRS codes it so that it's taxed appropriately at the employer level. This should be your #1 source of putting money away. Now, you're going to have different financial advisors give you different ideas and different ways of investing. But if you can put money away without having to pay taxes on it today, you're going to have a larger lump sum that's going to be growing with compounding interest that'll get you a larger bucket that you're going to draw from in retirement. When you draw from that in retirement, you don't take it all out in one shot. You're pulling it out in small increments. And by pulling it out in small increments, you're going to get taxed on those increments. And so what we've seen, it's not always the case, but you tend to be in a lower tax bracket in retirement. And so you pay less in taxes, and you might have other means of income that you don't even have to dip into your retirement. And hopefully you're one of those people that you don't have to touch it until you're 70 and a half when you have to take an RMD. So, but something to think about. We always encourage that to be your #1 option. Life insurance and long-term care. So these are critical pieces, especially when you're trying to protect assets. Life insurance, there's 3 different kinds of life insurance. There's term, universal life, whole life. All are great because they protect you. What we do is we help you identify what's going to be the best for you and your family. Long-term care, the same thing is, this is a very unique insurance policy where you put money aside to use while you're still alive to pay for medical expenses, assisted living care, skilled nursing, things of that nature down the road when you may get sick. I will share with you though, it is a use it or lose it insurance policy. So if something happens to you, you pass away in a car accident, then you don't reap any reward from that. So it still can be very important and critical, but again, it's a conversation you should have with a financial professional to make sure that that is truly what you're looking for, because there might be alternative options for you. Creating retirement income. There's different ways to create retirement income. There's Roth IRAs where you pay into a fund that will be after taxed dollars today, but you collect federally tax-free. I will share with you, California is still going to tax you on it. We always have to, make sure that the disclaimer is it's federally tax-free. So if you have the opportunity to move to Arizona and you like, versus the 110-degree weather that we had yesterday out in the valley, you want it to be 125, you're going to save yourself possibly 9% in taxes. Not sure it's worth the reward, but that's up to you to decide, and I can help you with that. Higher education planning, so 529 college plans. Maybe it could be a UTMA or a UGMA for a minor. These are things that could help you get some extra money aside. This is something I've been dealing with a lot in the last few weeks because we have a lot of kids who are graduating from college, graduating from high school right now, and their parents have done a great job of putting money away for their kids to use in college. You put that in investments, and when you use it for higher education, you don't have to pay any taxes on the gains. So it can be a wonderful tool to put aside tens of thousands of dollars, and higher education costs continue to go up dramatically. So it's something that if you have young children, this could be a great tool for you, and we'd love for you guys to talk to us about it and see if it's a right fit for you. And then retirement planning. So what does it look like? Making sure that you don't run out of money, making sure that you don't have to go back to work. Those are things that as a financial advisor, I would never want to have that conversation with somebody saying that they're running out of money and you have 2 options, either cut back dramatically and change your lifestyle, or you got to go get a job. It's not a conversation I'm going to have. Before you retire, I'll tell you to stay working if I don't think you're going to make it. So you're always going to get honesty from me, and whether you look or not, I have to give you my professional opinion. because I don't want you coming back to me, 5, 6 years later and, saying I lied to you and I lose my license. That doesn't work for me and my family. And we're talking about protecting our assets here. My assets are my licenses that, to do this work. And I really enjoy being here with the credit union, and I don't want to lose that. So I apologize for my bluntness, but it's important. And I want you guys to realize, when talking with me, I'm gonna be straight with you. Pension can provide consistency in retirement. A pension through the workplace or through your retirement assets is critical to create the income stream needed in retirement. So some ways that you can create pensions. Pensions kind of went by the wayside with many corporations and many entities. For those of you that are working with the city, that might have the opportunity for the pension, it's great. But as you know, it's constantly changing. For all of the new employees coming in today, the pension is a lot different. But there are ways to take your retirement assets and create an income stream, and there are different ways to do that. So you're basically creating your own pension through an investment product. While the pension can cover the budget expenses each month, any additional investments can supplement the pension while continuing to grow well. So basically what we're talking about here is, on top of your pension, what else do you have? And this is a discussion with each of you that we would have in terms of, Social Security, CalSTRS, CalPERS, your pension, your retirement accounts, all of those things. And then those investments can be used for larger expenses or to create an additional income stream to keep up with inflation and rising costs within a monthly budget. So, I was working on some other numbers recently, and inflation is going to continue to rise. It's what it does. Right now, the inflation is only at 1%. So we're not seeing a dramatic inflation increase. But for those of you out there who are listening right now, we don't know when that's going to change. It's all based on economic factors, and it could rise to 3 or 4% very quickly. So it's something to be aware of that could change. You're just might not get as much for the same dollar that you're getting today. Spousal protection. The emotional impact of losing a spouse can be worsened by the lack of proper planning. Plan ahead so the money you and your spouse spent so many years saving will be there when you need it. Situations can arise where the surviving spouse's retirement income will decline, potentially creating an income gap. The continuation of a pension to your spouse can alleviate stress and set them up for financial success. So these are factors that we want to make sure that you're aware of in terms of the married couples, the partnerships that are out there on the line. Make sure that you are thinking about what's going to happen at the time of death. For each, for either, spouse. Even stay-at-home parents should have a life insurance policy, because what's going to happen if the stay-at-home parent passes away? Well, now the parent who was working is going to have to pay for child care, going to have to pay for a change in transportation costs and all of those other expenses that go up with somebody else now having to watch your kids and take care of your house. So a life insurance policy can help offset those expenses. Again, it's not something we want to talk about and discuss, but it's important to make sure that you're aware of those things. Different investment options. So speculative growth, income, asset protection. Speculative, you'll also see in different investment portfolios as aggressive growth. Growth, in between growth and income, usually falls kind of a balance between those two. So you might have heard that word before. That would fall in between growth and income. And then asset protection is also known as capital preservation. So as you can see, the more aggressive, the more growth, the more speculative you get, the returns may increase your risk. So you want to be careful, and as a financial advisor, it's always important for me to know your risk tolerance. Are you willing to take that risk to make more money, but understanding that you may lose? Or is it better to preserve the capital and have slow or steady income that increases your cash. You're not going to hit home runs, but you might just hit singles, or you're going to get on base. Sometimes we're just hoping to get up to bat, depending on how the market is. But I'm not going to go into detail on each of the different investment options. This is something that you should talk to us about, to make sure that even within your deferred comp, that your investments match what your risk tolerance is. And we can help you with that and help you manage that deferred comp allocation. Working with a financial professional. Do I need comprehensive planning advice, or do I need just a retirement portfolio review? You need both. Of course you need financial professional advice. And that's coming from me because that's my job, and I'm going to support what I do for a living. But also, you think about it in the sense that to give you a step up, or to give you that leverage or help to get on, a track to reach your financial goals, start with just a, portfolio review. Start with just a complimentary review. Ask questions. You don't have to discuss numbers. You don't have to discuss anything else in detail with us. But at least you have some answers. You're still learning and trying to work on that plan for yourself. Comprehensive planning advice, again, the initial consultation is always complimentary for us to help you get to the point of, understanding where you are, where you want to get to, and how you're going to be able to get there. So I'm always going to encourage that you sit down with a professional and at least find out what it is that you do need for your, yourself, your family, protecting assets. All of it's incorporated in that comprehensive review. Face-to-face planning session, list any changes in your work or life that will take place within the next 12 months. Some of these things might be, you have to get a new car, you're going to take on a car payment. You might be retiring soon. You might be changing jobs and you don't know what to do with your, previous retirement account. Should you roll it into the next, place of work, or should you, leave it there? All those types of questions that could be coming up. Just assessing your current financial, position. Basically, just, just getting a gauge on where you are, and then, helping to implement those strategies and follow up. So this is kind of what, the things that we would discuss in a consultation. So with that, we're going to move on to some questions, and I apologize if I didn't get to, answer your questions through the conversation, but, now's a great time for us to go through those.
Okay. We have one person typing in a question now, so we'll give them time to type it in and just send in a message. Okay. They're typing in their question now.
Perfect. So I do want to, stress again, really sitting back and taking a thorough look at your own personal situation. Some of the questions might be, personal, that don't apply to everybody on the line. So it might be better if you, emailed or, got to a point of communicating that to us.
Okay. Your first question is, can you gift a 401k distribution to a family member for college for a tax advantage?
You can use retirement income to assist with college tuition, but you are going to pay taxes on it. There's no way to gift it. There's no way to get around paying taxes on a 401k or retirement account. The IRS has to get paid. That's what they told me in numerous statements. But so there's no way to go around that. I do not recommend using retirement accounts for college tuition. I always go back to an analogy that I use. If you had children and you flew on an airplane with a child, the flight attendant would come around and would say to you, when the oxygen mask comes down, you need to put the oxygen mask on yourself first, the adult, before you put it on the child. Because if you're not coherent, if you're not capable of maintaining oxygen and staying conscious, then you're going to be zero help to your child. If you want to use your IRA or 401k money to help pay for college for your child, you won't pay the penalty on the taxes, but you'll pay taxes on it, but now you lose that opportunity to retire when you want to. And then you might be putting a burden on your child to have to take care of you in retirement. So I recommend using student loans, grants, any type of tuition reimbursements, work study. There's a lot of options out there. And the nice thing about student loans, the interest on those loans is tax deductible, and it doesn't hurt you in terms of your credit score, your FICO score, and things like that. So great question, and we're going to move on to the next one.
Okay. Another person I can pretty much answer this one. They just wanted to know how could they get in contact with you. And the next slide will actually have Christopher's contact information. In addition to that, as I stated earlier, I will be sending out a survey. That survey, you can provide your name, email address as well, or you can email me at mkasuk@lapfcu.org, and I will send that out to everyone as well tomorrow when I send out the survey. You have you have some additional questions. Your next question is, let's see, I do not own real estate property. Do I need a will, living will, and a trust? I have 3 adult children, 32, 31, and 28, and I'm in my second marriage.
So I do recommend that you discuss that with an estate attorney. An estate attorney is the professional that will help to identify if there's certain assets that you have that need to be protected. In most situations, beneficiaries and the other statements that you're going to have will take care of that. But I'll just share with you from my personal experience. When somebody comes to me and shows me a death certificate saying that they're the beneficiary, I still need either a will, I need a court document that says that that money should go to them. And I cannot move those assets until I get that.
Okay. Your next question is, in addition to advice regarding deferred comp investments, would you offer advice for investments in other financial institutions such as Schwab and Fidelity?
Can you repeat that?
Yes. In addition to advice regarding deferred comp investments, would you offer advice for investments in other financial institutions such as Schwab and Fidelity?
I will give you, any advice that I give you would be specific to your current situation. If you have questions about investments at other institutions, I will gladly review that with you and help you identify if you're in the correct asset classes based on your risk tolerance. My job is to help give you guidance and advice, but you have to make the decisions of what you're going to do with your investments. We can't dictate that for you, but yeah, I would be glad to help you review that and give you my input.
Okay. Your next question is, I am 69, still working, and I'm covered by my company health plan. I did sign up for Medicare before my 65th birthday, but I have never used it. Should I cancel my company plan and save some money and use Medicare?
That's a great question. What you might want to identify first is what is the difference in what you're going to receive of Medicare versus your current benefits that you're receiving. And I'll give you that option of you do the cost-benefit analysis. If you decrease your cost by going to Medicare versus your company benefits, and get the same coverage and get to use the same providers and everything else, then that's a great option for you. But if you might lose something in that cost differential that you don't want to give up, then I don't recommend it.
Okay. Your next question is a two-parter, and then we have one more question following that. The question is, what is your take on college savings like scholarship shares? My husband and I already have life insurance from work. Do I still need to get a separate one outside from our employer?
Okay, the first one, the college shares, I would have to review it to identify, what that investment is to make sure that it's an appropriate investment for, what you're looking for. I do encourage it anytime that you can get gains and not have to pay taxes on it. I think that's a win. In terms of life insurance policy, what we see is a lot of people don't stay at their same employer for their life. And you might go to another employer that doesn't offer a group life insurance policy, and then you're later in your years, you're older, you have different medical conditions. To get a life insurance policy at that point will be very expensive. So it just depends on, you as an individual, what you're looking to get accomplished. But I do have many people who have joint policies, a group policy at work, and then a policy outside, just in case they don't stay at that employer.
Okay. And the last question of the evening is, can my domestic partner and I roll our 401k together when we retire?
You cannot. So a 401k is the same as an IRA. It is an individual retirement account. So only one person's name can be on it. And that's so that it can't be commingled, and so the IRS can keep track of it as what you owe for your taxes. You can keep them on the same type of brokerage statement. You can keep them housed in the same location so that you have one statement that shows both of your performances, and you can do things together in that sense, but they have to be different account numbers to identify each of you individually. Good question.
Okay. If we were not able to get to any of questions that you're thinking of now, again, I will be sending out tomorrow. And in that survey, you'll be able to give us your feedback on how you feel the presentation went. You can also ask additional questions that you were not able to ask in this segment. If you did not join at the beginning of the webinar, or if you just want to listen to the whole thing over again, I also will be providing a link to the recorded session in the next 2 business days. I really want to thank Christopher for being our guest presenter tonight. He has a lot of information to share, and I'm very glad that he shared his time with us here tonight.
Thank you, Myra.
And I will get to everyone. I want to make sure that I thank all of you also for sharing your time. Thank you, and have a great night.
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you taking the time tonight.